This is the tale of a very big vintner and quite a small business, Reed Wines, based here by this mill stream between Bath and Wells. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Bill Baker, although he may not be his doctor's idea of a model patient. Bill Baker's one of the very few wine merchants who embraces what he eats as enthusiastically as what he drinks. What are you seriously trying to do at the moment?
Well, we always collect a lot of samples up, and every so often, hopefully with most of the members of the business here, we taste through them. Now, today it's just Simon and I, and we just want to look at some sparkling wines and champagne. We've got a few samples in, and we just thought we'd have a go and see if they're any good, and obviously you can give us your professional opinion as well. It's ugly, it's green, it doesn't smell of Chardonnay at all. I don't know what the cepage is in the wine, but it really isn't at all nice. And then in the finish, it is green as grass. Yeah. I mean, the acidity grabs your tongue and tries to wrench it from your mouth. It's so horrid. Yucko! We won't be having that.
Yucko! Yeah. Were you always interested in food and drink?
Well, to an extent, yes. I certainly remember being horrified when first going to school, how disgusting the food was. In fact, I mounted a campaign to try and improve it by taking photographs and supposedly sending them to the Daily Mail. But sadly, the housemaster intercepted the post and they never reached their target. And I was severely reprimanded for this. The food was just so revolting that one had to be interested in food. So I went to the local town and tried to get things to cook.
What sort of things?
I used to do 6 egg omelettes. Those just about stayed the hunger off for a day or two. Large chunks of steak with pepper and nata and things like that. Nothing terribly, you know, you only had 2 gas rings and they were very sordid, but it did certainly stave off the pangs of hunger.
Did you ever bring food and drink into your academic work?
I did, because I was asked to write a project on something French after having completed O-level. And I chose to do it on food and drink, on French food and drink, merely because I walked into the school bookshop one day and found that box set of Elizabeth David cookery books that was around at the time, and I started reading them and it made the mouth water somewhat, especially when one had belly pork swimming in 15 inches of fat at lunchtime. It was rather impossible to eat. And yeah, I read through French provincial cooking and decided the thing to do was to try and match French provincial food with the particular wines from the regions concerned.
Reed Wines. Hello.
This is what one might call the skeleton staff of Reed Wines, where the ledger and carbon paper still rule. Presumably the local shop just stopped stocking quill pens.
You specialise in really pretty fine wine.
We don't sell any crap, but we do have good, cheap wine as well, and it's something that Reed Wines has increasingly started to do in the last 3 or 4 years because of demand.
But what's special about Reed Wines is that you're prepared to sell really quite fine wine by the single bottle.
Yes, you have to, I think, to the sort of accounts that we deal with. People do not want to buy cases of 61 clarets, even 70 clarets. They'll buy little 1983s and 82s, of course, but they won't buy expensive bottles in huge quantities. Yes, we enjoy selling single bottles. It's a nice way of doing it. It means, A, we can drink them when we want to, just to check they're all right, of course, and B, that we can touch them. I like touching things, you see.
But your list is very particular. You write all these comments. What did I just read? About the 67 claret vintage. You said, not quite as vile as the 68.
Well, I don't know if it's about the 67. It could well be. 67 is a very curate's egg vintage. There's some good wines, not very many now, and some extremely disgusting ones. But I like to tell people, we try to be honest. We never sell a bottle of wine if we've tasted it. If somebody asks our opinion on a bottle of wine that we've tasted, we'll tell them if it's naff. will tell them it's disgusting. The thing that I find remarkable is that the comments, the more derogatory the comment, the more readily the wine sells. I once wrote about a Cadet Piola 1950, disgusting wine, pretty label, and it was the first thing that sold in the list.
Charterhouse, Peterhouse, and now this old mill house, where Bill both works and lives with his wife Kate and Dipper. Bill's made a speciality of supplying restaurants and country house hotels, not exactly a growth area at the moment. At one stage he was driving hundreds of miles and eating 2 feasts a day. But since he met Kate, when she was working at Gidley Park in Devon, he travels less and has slimmed down.
What proportion of wine merchants do you think actually make money?
Not many. You can, if you're unscrupulous, buy things cheap from private sellers and sell them very expensively. That's something we've never done. We've always given a fair price. And that is why we continue to be offered good private sellers. And I'd far prefer to buy from private sellers than, say, in the auction rooms. We do buy in the auction rooms, but we try to buy as much as we can from private sellers.
Why?
Why? Because you know how the stuff's been stored. You go and see Colonel Bloggins in Ashfield or wherever, and you look at his bottles of Lafite 45 and hope you're not knocked over on the way out by his Ridgeback, which I nearly was carrying a case of 45 Lafite once. But you can see the stuff, and you can look at it before you buy it. Buying in the rooms is always a risk.
You don't know how it's been stored.
You don't know how it's been stored. You don't know where it's been stored. You don't know if it's been across the Atlantic 3 times. And there's a lot of that about at the moment because we are able to buy good claret from the States at a knockdown price.
Now, you have a particularly distinctive way of chasing up bad payers in the restaurant business, don't you?
This is another very useful piece of reputation which stems from an incident, well, about 8 years ago, when a particular restaurant, despite reminders over 8 months, had decided not to pay their account of 350 quid. So I decided that we would go and eat the debt. So we sat down and we ordered everything that was most expensive off the menu and a couple of good bottles of wine. In fact, when we'd finished, the bill came to about 40 quid more than they owed us. So I straight into the kitchen with 2 20s and asked to see the proprietor, who was about 5 foot, I suppose, and despite holding a meat cleaver, rather quaking behind his range. And so I said, I'm Bill Baker from Reed Wines. You've owed us 350 quid for the last 8 months. We've had a very nice dinner, which we had. It was absolutely delicious. Sadly, the restaurant is no more. I can't imagine why. And I gave him the 40 quid and said, listen, you're very lucky to get this. Don't ever try to buy from me again. Throughout the entire exchange, he was speechless.